I don't want to worry about also damaging stuff or myself. So
yeah, we actually make a special fuel nozzle wrench that it keeps your hand away from the firewall, because if you run your hand down that firewall, it just slices your hand.
So it's funny you said that, because I was teaching class today and they were taking that out, and I said, you guys watch your hands on that firewall, because we have an engine guy that saw a guy go to get that out and he sliced all the tendons in the back of his hand. He had to go have major surgery, and now he has like really reduced mobility in his hand from slipping. That's crazy you said that. That was literally today we talked about it.
Welcome to the Vertical MRO Podcast, brought to you by Vertical HeliCASTS.
All right, everyone, you're ready to contact. You're cleared to the Bravo.
The Vertical MRO Podcast explores the fascinating world of helicopter maintenance, repair, and overhaul with your host, Val Medved.
Now, line altimeter 3029, approved as requested.
The podcast features helicopter technicians, mechanics, engineers, and MRO experts who share invaluable industry insight, knowledge, and stories that will inspire current and aspiring industry maintainers.
Special thanks to our sponsors for this podcast: Airbus, Precision Aviation Group. Hey everybody, it's Val here from Vertical MRO. Co-hosting with me today was Faith Ortega and guest Joe LaCaze of Helicopter Work Aids. He takes listeners on a journey throughout his legacy, innovation, and the personal side of helicopter maintenance. He shares how a childhood surrounded by aviation, shaped by his passion for the industry, and how that passion evolved into a career rooted in both technical expertise and a drive to improve the tools of the trade. From early influences in the Gulf of Mexico to co-founding Helicopter Work Aids, a family-focused business on aviation tools, Joe highlights the power of mentorship, the impact of embracing challenges, and the value of community and growing as a maintainer, all very important parts here. The conversation moves seamlessly from lighthearted banter about sports, rivalries, and the family stories to deep dives into safety-focused tool innovation, quality control, and evolving needs of helicopter mechanics. With insights on continuous learning, legacy aircraft, and building strong industry partnerships, this episode offers something for everyone in the rotorcraft maintenance world. I'm Val. This is Vertical MRO. Let's get this rolling, baby.
Yeah, we definitely want to have all of our tools in everybody's toolbox. But the problem is that we design ours to hopefully last forever. So once you buy it once, you don't need to buy it again. So then we have to keep coming up with new tools. We got to keep coming up with new tools to convince you guys to keep buying tools. So.
But it's the reinventions, right? That's what's going to keep it always interesting. If you guys already kind of mastered yet a master plan and make it something better down the road, if it might take 5-10 years or something like that, but if it's something that's really good and everybody's using it by the sounds of the way Faith kind of discovered it, it's that, and that's probably the best advertising. I think we throw millions of dollars on everything, advertising, sales, and marketing and stuff like that. But the best form of advertising, Joe, is exactly what you're doing. You're creating cool parts that are actually feasible, and usable for a long time. And that's when I'm not surprised when you hear about the specialized tools being gifted down or literally willed down. If should someone be leaving or retiring from the position, and all of a sudden that young next up and comer is inherited the tools, that's a gift. That's a gift of beyond, like it's a transcending gift. So it's like, that kind of stuff right there. That's the shit that you really want to kind of get a hold of and never let go of. So good for you for kind of creating that one and done tool. That's awesome. I'd love to hear that all day long.
Like I said, it's a hard balancing act to keep the tools affordable to the mechanics, so it's not just the company buying it, to make tools that are super efficient. There's that we have a lot of tools that they're for one nut on an aircraft. How many spots? It's literally for one nut, because that one nut will take you 10-15 minutes, but with the proper tool will take you a couple seconds. So we're trying to do that and be responsive for when customers need a tool, to be quick about it. Because as you guys know, when you need a tool, sometimes you can't pre-plan for what you're going to do. So you only find out you need a tool when you need it.
Yep.
And you don't want your aircraft grounded for a few days.
It's good. It's like a good insurance. Better to have it when you need it, not need it when you have it, right? So did I mess that up? Yeah, I probably did.
But not everybody not everybody takes that advice. Like, get phone calls. It's like, I need that tool yesterday.
I try. Listen, I'm in the engine service world right now. My phone calls, my phone does ring at weird hours of the night. Like, hey man, we're AOG. I'm like, dude, it's like 3 a.m. There's not much I can really kind of offer you. But the fact that you're able to be that voice still to kind of have them understand of what the situation that you're in, that I think that's a lot of the panic that's kind of taken out of the conversation right away. The fact that somebody picked up the phone, and if you have it readily available first thing, when you get into the office, they're usually very appreciative of that. So
Yeah.
go ahead, Faith.
Oh, sorry. I will say too, it's not just a time thing, it's a safety thing. Like, there are some tools. I remember the first time I lifted a 206 head off of the mast, and they're wrapping the straps around it, and they're doing the whole bit, and they're putting a steel rod to hold the PC link into the side of the head. And I'm thinking, that's it? Like, that's the only thing keeping this thing from twisting. And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, okay. And everyone, when you go through A&P school, especially if you're working on helicopters like I did, everyone's like, oh, like, if you ever have a head twist on you, you'll know it. And you'll have to go clean your shorts out because it's scary, like, when it happens. And I'm like, really? And they're like, yeah, because it looks like it's going to fall. And, sometimes it happens slow enough you may not realize it's happening. They said slow-mo. They said sometimes it's just like, bam, it'll go. And so they were, describing what happens. And I actually have seen it firsthand. And it didn't over twist, but it wasn't 90 degrees, but it started to go. We got enough guys on it that we were able to prevent it. But
you saved it.
When I saw your tool,
I've never seen.
Oh, it's not. It's so sketchy. Like I said, those TT straps within the head.
Yeah.
So basically, it just allows the blade to go back to its happy place. So it allows it to flap or to cant. But with all that weight from the end of the blade, and it doesn't have support anymore, it will over twist. And once it hits 90, the book says 90. I would say probably even before that, I'd be questioning things. But yeah. And they make a special tool that basically clamps the head onto the side of the hub so it cannot twist.
Okay.
So I remember when those first came out, when I saw one, I was like, dude, that is ingenious. I'm like, I've been saying that for forever. Like, the fact that we use, just like a steel rod, like, that's kind of, it does the job, but if it slips out, like, you're hosed.
Yep.
So it has to be perfectly made. And so, yeah, that's been a godsend. I use those every single time. I tell people, I'm like, it's not about doing it quickly all the time, but doing it safely, because that's the last thing I want twisting while it's over my head on a hoist, and I'm trying to push it away or get it down. I'm like, man, I don't want to worry about also damaging stuff or myself. So, or
yourself. Yeah. Bigger picture, anybody or your crew around you.
Yeah. We actually make a special fuel nozzle wrench that, it keeps your hand away from the firewall. Cause if you run your hand down that firewall, it just slices your hand.
Yeah.
That little like partition back there. So it's funny you said that, because I was teaching class today and they were taking that out. And I said, you guys watch your hands on that firewall, because we have an engine guy that saw a guy go to get that out, and he sliced all the tendons in the back of his hand.
With
and
that sheet metal.
He had to go have major surgery, and now he has like really reduced mobility in his hand from slipping. That's crazy you said that. That was literally today. Wow. We talked about it, but
Okay. Joe, your customer base, are you North American centric, or are you global?
We're global. We keep a running tally of every country that we've sent tools to.
Yep.
And we have now tools in at least 80 countries.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Most remote one off the top of the head?
The most remote one, I would say, is Papua New Guinea. Papua New Guinea is actually...
I was just there.
They have a lot of helicopters there.
They do, because the roads aren't developed.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a very, very weird, and you know what? I shouldn't be so harsh on it. It's a very unique place.
Yeah, that one's probably... I don't even want to say that it's the most, because we actually sell a lot of tools to Papua New Guinea.
Yeah. There's a lot of helicopters there. There's for a small island, I want to say there's I think someone was kind of educating me about it. There's like 8 or 9 million people on this little island, and there's over 800 languages alone.
Wow.
And it's such a unique place, but it reminds you, like, oh man, like it kind of, there's been a couple people on this podcast that have spoken about it. It literally feels like evolution forgot about this place for the last 100 years.
Oh,
and the roads and the infrastructure are not to be driven on. They're terrible unless you're in Port Moresby. Port Moresby is a capital city. It's got some development, but man, we went up to Medang, and I'm very glad that we ended it at Medang and we flew back down. But like from what I hear, the Highlands there, it's
So remote.
Yeah, it's remote, and you have to access alone by helicopter. So good for you for that place. But it's because of the precious metals and because of the different materials that they're finding more and more thereof around there. It's turning into a helicopter mecca. There's a lot of Northern Australian companies that are flying a boatload of hours in PNG.
And then it came back to me. So there's an island that's a French territory in the Pacific Ocean. And I would say that one is probably the most remote customer, because I think shipping was over $1,000
just to get it there
for the tools. You had to get there. Just shipping was over $1,000.
Imagine what Amazon charges.
Yeah.
Like, sorry, man. Here's a sticker and a hoodie. God bless.
Yeah. Good luck to you.
And so, yeah, it was some French territory in the Pacific Ocean. So we had over 80 countries, and it's super exciting to know that we're helping, mechanics work on aircrafts. Like I said, I'm a mechanic. My father's a mechanic. My brother's a mechanic, and so we're building these tools to help the guys out. And I think that's one of the things that people like about us is that when they call us, another mechanic answers the phone.
Your understanding of it. Yep.
Yes. Instead of because there's a couple of machine shops that kind of like fall into the aviation tooling, but they're not mechanics. We actually bought out a company from where Faith lived, and Heli Tools was based out of there.
I didn't even know there was a company there.
So we actually, yeah. So Heli Tools made Bell overhaul tools, and we bought that company out, and it increased the amount of tooling that we made because now we have Bell overhaul tools. But that gentleman was a machinist that kind of fell into it. I'm not sure how he fell into it, but
if you listen to the popular story of a lot of machinists, and especially in our industry, they kind of just do that because it was see a need, fill a need, right? So no, it's exactly what you've done, handed down from what your dad started. You were just talking about, your CNC about to be put into a glass case, and your bearing press on the S76, right? Your dad saw it, and he basically created it, and it can still probably kick ass and do the hell of a job still today if you needed to. Again, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But see a need, fill a need, right? That's a lot of the machinists kind of get into when they all of a sudden develop a tool or all of a sudden develop something that's widely recognized and or talked about. Then that's when the industry catches fire for it. So,
and I'm sure I was thinking this too. Like, how many times do you get phone calls from people that are like, "Hey, I just this dude just slipped and hit his hand when he was working on the shop floor, and I thought there's got to be an easier tool. Do you all have something for this?" So how often do you guys get like requests?
I'd say about once a week. So right now, so Faith, you would know this well. So going back a little bit into previous conversations, because I worked my whole career in 135s. I never worked in 145 in helicopters. And so I kind of wish that I did, because then I would have been able to see the inside of like the tail rotor gearbox and the transmission and the main rotor head taken apart, the tail rotor assembly completely taken apart. Whereas in a 135, I always saw everything as an assembly, and we slapped it on there, So have you messed with the tail rotor hub? Have you ever taken it completely apart? And so the little blue piece that the trunnion bearing goes in.
Yep.
Have you ever had to pull the bearing out of that trunnion housing?
I have. It was a while ago, and I watched a mechanic. I kind of shadowed him pulling it out and replacing it during an overhaul, but yes.
Do you remember how he pulled it out?
He had some weird, so you know how like when you go to take an excluder seal out, you have that thing that you put in there and you spin the rod and it kind of expands it so you can yank it. Like it kind of gets on the back end of it. Gotcha. It looked like a smaller version of that, but again, this was not anything that was purchased for that. I don't know if he reverse engineered or was handed something down, because that definitely wasn't like called out in the job. Like, hey, use this tool and blah, 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 blah. He just happened to have one.
Okay.
So
that is something that we had a customer call, and he was using Harbor Freight, like a seal puller, but the T's were big. And as you know, if that bearing gets pushed all the way down to the bottom, you can't get behind it. And so he requested us to make a puller for that. Actually, yesterday we made one real quick to test to see if it would even be worthwhile going through with it. And we stuck it in there. And we did it with a slide hammer, to beat it out. And we realized, like, we need to heat this up. So I went in the maintenance manual and I looked, and you're supposed to heat it up. We heated it up, and then, first try, it came out. And so we were really excited. I contacted the guys like, hey, we came up with the tool and it worked. And I guess it was the research phase. We wanted to see if it even worth spending the time on it. So we were pretty excited about it. I'm kind of interested. I wish I could see the one that you saw to get an idea of how that one worked. That is the most recent example of a customer. Hey, I got a problem. I need a tool for it. I haven't seen one before. And then so we try to come up with something to help them out. And so the joke around here now is we're not a tool company, we're a solutions company.
There's so the place I used to work over at Heli Inc., they are a 145. And for those of you listening that may not know, sometimes when you work on helicopters, the manufacturer will let you work on it in its entirety. Other times they won't let you crack open line replacement units. So some companies won't let you get into the transmission or the tail rotor gearbox. Bell is a prime example. I'm a Bell gal through and through. That's all I've really been subjected to. So Bell is fantastic because Bell will give you the maintenance manual criteria to go in and dissect those to a further level, should you be trained properly and have all the right equipment. But sometimes what you'll see is the 206 B3s and the Ls in general have been around for a test of time. And so sometimes Bell would just say, hey, do this and get this out, clean it, put it back in. And they're not super clear sometimes on how to get it out or how to go about facilitating that. And so guys have methods to the madness all over the world and what they use. And the company I used to work for, that gentleman had been doing that job for the last 20 years. And so he is like the guru of transmissions, tail rotor gearbox, freewheeling units, all things Bell 206 and 407. And so watching him sometimes, like, that man could overhaul a head in like 2-3 hours. So it kills me sometimes when people will be like, how long does it take a head? And I'm like, how long does it take to do a head, or how long does it take Rob at Heli Inc. to do a head? Because he's going to give you a very different number than what's actually true. So sometimes I have to remind myself, like watching him, he's like, oh, I got a thing for that. Here, hold on a second, kid. And he'd like run over to his toolbox and grab it. And I'm like, yeah, when you are done with this, can I have that? I'm like, because he had all kinds of stuff like that, or tips and tricks. And I'm like, man, when he goes, there's going to be so much knowledge that goes with him.
And I think, you know what, Faith, you hit the nail on the head of this. And because, again, that tribal knowledge that we all seek and look for, and that's, kind of what I think that's kind of been a backbone theme of this whole podcast, tribal knowledge and the handing down of knowledge said to that who wants to learn it, right? So I think good for you for kind of tapping into anybody. And again, Joe, if you know of anybody, sounds like you had it with your dad there, kind of leading the way there and kind of tapping into that knowledge and then building upon it. Now let's giving a quick shout out to Gabby there when she kind of gets into the role of everything and she's able to now kind of tap into your knowledge. And you've now, like, you look at you're beaming about that, dude. You're like a proud dad, like watching her kind of go to the first day of school. Yes. That's the type of stuff that this industry and that our industry has kind of taken on and kind of handed down to whoever wants again to learn it, because it's, God bless, if we got enough of it, let's show others how we got it done. If they can make it better, that's gonna be awesome. So good job. Yeah. Good job on that. I kind of want to kind of just jump into, we talked a lot about obviously your customizing tool, and you say the one tool for one type of particular, like a tool for a nut that's only we'll use one time. I want you to explain a little bit of the emphasis of the safety of kind of working with your tools, the FOD, the hazmat, and the regulatory compliances that you have to deal with.
thank you to our sponsor, Precision Aviation Group. Mission-critical operators and fleet managers rely on Precision Aviation Group as a worldwide leading rotor and fixed-wing MRO provider. PAG provides tip-to-tail solutions in 4 MRO segments: avionics, components, engines, and manufacturing DER services. A single point of contact gives you access to over 150 million in inventory globally, 24/7. Just call 800-537-2778. Precision Aviation Group. Others sell parts. We sell support.
Here's an example of a perfect tool. That's a safety tool. I brought it in here. I bet you've never seen this one before, Faith. You crank down on here, and it squeezes.
It's like a pinch clamp of some sort.
See that? So this for on the 206 and the 407 on the tail rotor pitch change. You know, there's a rod that goes all the way through the tailbone. You know, and then there's the bell crank on the back.
Yeah.
Okay. Sometimes the bolt will freeze. Right. And then it's in a tight spot. Like, how do you get that thing out? If you get a pry bar in there, you start prying on the on that bolt, and you're prying against the tail rotor gearbox. I can't think of the name now. The what?
It's like the opening, basically, the access panel.
Yeah, through the opening, but it's that last piece of the tail rotor sits on top of that gets riveted to the back of the tailbone. I can't think of the name of it now, but you can crack it if you put too much pressure on the, you know, and if you do that, now you're a EOG because you just cracked that tail rotor gearbox, fixed the frame down there, and so this goes in there. And it fits in there properly, and it just squeeze. It puts it. This rides on the bearing, and then this part goes on the threaded piece of the threaded side of the bolt, and then when it squeezes, and it just pushes it through without you putting pressure on that fixture.
There you go.
And so
Yeah,
that's one. You know, this is one of these tools that you can get away with not having it. But the moment you make a mistake, you just realize you just wish you had it, you know? And so,
okay,
this is a perfect example of that tool.
I was thinking about this too, just from a manufacturing standpoint. Do you guys have to do a lot of testing? I would assume to probably make sure that everything's good. Because I was thinking about this the other day, you know, like even here. So we have an engine that was fotted out, and we just want to use it for schooling purposes, right? We want to put it on a stand. So everyone that I was trying to get to help me fab up a stand was like, well, we don't want the liability of the engine being dropped. And I'm like, no, it's a shot engine. Like, it's already a giant paperweight, no biggie. And they're like, we'll think about it. But, you know, it's still an asset, and it would be considered a loss if it fell off and all this stuff. And I'm thinking, man, like, even a crap engine, it's hard to get someone, because to buy an engine stand, they're pretty pricey. And so just for like schooling or educational purposes, we just are trying to find like a one-off situation. It doesn't even have to roll great. It's just going to sit in the corner of the classroom, you know? So do you guys have to do so much testing or different things like that to make sure that, you know, there's no way that if someone used it improperly, they could try to, you know?
Yeah. So that brings us to why our name is Helicopter Work Aids and not Helicopter Tools.
Okay.
From my understanding, a tool is an item that is required to return your aircraft to airworthiness. To give you an example, if you need a torque wrench to return something, a torque wrench is a tool. Okay. Any special items that you can't replace, that'll be a tool. Your wrench.
I was just going to say, let's get a dictionary definition here. A device or an implement, especially one held in a hand used to carry out a particular function. There's the tool.
Yeah. But isn't the term that in aviation, though?
There you go.
It's like the term airworthy. There's a whole FAR behind it. Most people don't even know that.
Yeah. Because let's be honest here. If you had a three-quarter that was made out of paper mache, but you could still torque everything properly, doesn't matter what that wrench is made out of, as long as the bolt is properly torqued. Because the manual says that it needs to be torqued. It doesn't say what tool what item you need to use to torque it.
I love this.
Yeah, this is a different part of the brain conversation. Now here we go.
Right?
You have to think about this stuff, though.
Yep.
That's
And so-
crazy.
If you get a rubber screwdriver and it says to torque it says to install it. It doesn't say to torque the screws, because all the screws have a nominal torque. You can go in the maintenance manual.
Yep.
There's a certain chapter that gives you all the nominal torques for any threaded item, you know?
Yep.
And so technically you probably should go back with the torque wrench and check each individual screw. Let's say something with the cotter pin or anything, and you had a rubber screwdriver that you needed, put it on there. As long as the cotter pin is lined up, from my understanding, it doesn't matter what tool you're using as long as the maintenance was done properly.
Yep.
Right. When my father started the business, we focused on those type of tooling, work aids, right, that didn't require like the certifications and everything. So as we've grown and we've increased our product line, we have gotten into items that now we are starting to require certification for.
Okay.
One of the biggest ones that we do is anything that lifts a helicopter and an engine. All of our tools go out for certification, and if they get rated, we stress them to
Load
make
test.
sure that each individual one gets stress test.
Okay.
So it's not just like we did one and then all of them are, no, each individual tool now gets stress tests for the rating, and it comes with paperwork for those now.
Okay.
That's amazing.
Okay.
That's
And
so
so-
smart.
One, for liability, the last thing that you want is, I got a bunch of people working for me, and I don't want something to happen. I got to keep those guys. And the most important thing is, we don't want anybody to get hurt. I'm a mechanic. The last thing I want to do is get hurt when I'm doing maintenance. And so we want we want to know that our tools are good for the job.
So the word aid really does have a broad spectrum.
Exactly. Yeah.
There it is.
That's
Okay.
genius. And if you think about anything in aviation, I mean, like, if you ask anybody that's a non-certificated person, what they think of when they hear the term aviation maintenance, they're going to tell you money. But they think of money, like things are expensive, things like that. But if you are a certificated person within this realm and you hear the word aviation, you think money and liability,
Yeah.
right? Those are the
Litigiousness.
number two things
Yep.
that you're always thinking about. And I just had this conversation with somebody the other day, actually, because this is really how your brain is wired, especially if you are a pilot, an operator, a mechanic in any faculty. Helicopter, sorry.
Buzzing towers.
Yeah, that was the police, actually. It was the state police. So, but, pilots accept the liability when they're in the aircraft, right? The minute that they buckle in, they haven't even started yet. Shit, not even at that point. It's when they push it out of the hangar,
Yep.
right? So
Yep.
at that point, from the rip, they're accepting liability. We accept liability while they're out flying, while we're at the grocery store, when we're sleeping at night, when we're doing anything away from the aircraft. So it's a whole nother ball game. And I always feel bad because sometimes new AMPs, if you're listening, I'm not trying to be all fire and brimstone here. It's not scary, I promise. But you have to also take into account that this is a big part of the job. Like wrenching, I always tell my guys, because I teach here at Aerovac. So when I get my guys, I'm like, hey, I know you're going to learn the aircraft. You wouldn't be in this trade if your brain wasn't wired to love working with your hands. I know you're going to pick that up quick. It's the paperwork and the FARs and realizing what the rule book says. I said, that's the tricky part. That's what sometimes I feel like deters people. But honestly, if you're in it to win it and you learn the rule book and you're trying to do all of the things, you'll be just fine. But I've always wondered what that meant for you. So thank you for shedding some light on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing too is that we test our tools, because the last thing that I want is when you're doing maintenance to cause problems and cause more maintenance.
There you go. Yep.
We want our tools to help you complete maintenance safely and efficiently, so you can move on to the next task or end your day and get the aircraft back up in the air.
You touched on it earlier, Joe, just like when you said at that aha moment, when you're kind of installed and you use a particular tool to kind of get this job done in a matter that it might have either saved you a shit ton of time before, or a whole bunch of time wasted causing more money for that helicopter to be on the ground, and all of a sudden you insert a tool. It might have been so simplistic of a design, and all of a sudden it was used at one time. It's like, this paid for it all right here, just this one tool, right? So that aha moment, God bless, like I said, it's I don't have the abilities that both of you carry there, but at the same time, when I do pick up the right tool and I am kind of putzing around my garage, I'm like, God, where was this like 5 years ago? Shit. Like it's that kind of aha moment, right? So it's thanks for kind of being that provider to those, where the angels sing and the halo glows and you got everybody dancing because you found the right tool for the right job.
And growing up with my dad having the machine shop, it really helped for me to develop tools also, because I'd see something and I was like, okay, we got a machine shop. I know what capability. I know how to make this happen.
Yeah.
And so, like a simple one, I actually brought another one here. I don't know. Do you have one of these?
You sent me one.
So this is for the 407 K-Flex, and it's literally only for the engine side of the K-Flex to torque the nuts, because otherwise you can't. I don't know of any other way to torque those nuts properly without this wrench that has this joggle on there.
From the drive shaft to the engine.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And it's 50 to 70 inch pounds, I believe. It's not that much.
Yeah.
But so many people just crank down on them because they don't know what torque they're putting. I mean, you just crank down on it. They call it the 3.5 white knuckles, or the 2 grunts.
Good and tight. Yeah.
Good and tight.
And so,
yep.
I had never seen this before, and so in my world, I'm the one that came up with this tool, and so this has been very popular, and that's one of those things where that one helps you sleep at night, knowing that you properly torqued it to what the maintenance manual spec is.
Yeah, no, that's my past life. I used to be with Comatics, and mind you, that was always one of the questions. That's a Bell proprietary type of thing with their K-Flex drive shafts. And they always called me up like, I need another drive shaft. I'm like, I can't do that, man. You got to go right through Bell. But it's like, that would have made their lives a shit ton easier.
So I came up with this in 2015. I went to HAI in Dallas in 2015, and I spoke with Comatics to see if they would, maybe put their seal of approval on this.
Yeah, yeah.
And they came back and they were like, unfortunately, those nuts that you're torquing are a Bell spec, not ours. So
yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right.
And
yeah, that's right.
Because it's an airframe side, not the
STC holder.
But even the K-Flex drive shafts on those aircraft, even though they're a Comatics drive shaft, it's still Bell property. So
okay.
Yeah, so it's all built to Bell specs. So you still got to go back through Bell. Yeah. It was a question that I fielded a lot in my days there. So yeah, I feel it. But it's like you said, that's the one that helps you sleep at night, right? So it's yep.
There are so many jobs like that too, where like even in my class that I teach the guys, I'm like, hey, 99.9% of the time, Bell is going to list a torque for you. Okay. Sometimes it's a range. Sometimes it's just a torque. If not, you're going to use a standard torque practices manual. Here's how to use that. And it's so funny because it even goes in there and shows you like those really old pictures. It probably when, my grandpa's grandpa, if he was in aviation, would have been in A&P school, saw. But it shows like the torque wrench at a 90, and there's the calculation if it's not at 90.
Yeah.
And there are some places that it's funny because, like I said, I being the instructor, so I wrench, I moonlight at night, but when I'm at work, I'm pointing the finger, telling them like, hey, do this, do that, trying to coach them. So it's funny because I'm like, hey, your torque wrench has to be at 90, try to torque this. And like after like 5-10 minutes, they're up there sweating. They're like, kiss my ass. There's no way you can keep this at a 90. And I'm like, okay, then you're gonna have to be a mathematician. You're gonna have to figure it out. So, let's get this out and figure it out. And they're like, oh man. And I'm like, yep. I'm like, or if there was a tool for that, which sometimes there is, sometimes there's not, but it sounds like you guys are pretty aware of what guys are having to deal with and the headaches. So that's pretty funny.
And Joe, do you still get a lot of questions of what if, or can you look at building something like this? Is that something that you get approached a lot with?
Thanks to our sponsor, Airbus. Airbus provides the most efficient helicopter solutions to its customers who serve, protect, and save lives and safely carry passengers in demanding environments. Its civil and military helicopters are flying all over the world, making missions possible. Visit airbus.com for more information.
Oh, probably once a week.
Yeah.
So we've actually, as we've grown, it's gotten worse. And so I've actually had to go to a specialized program app so we can just keep track of all these ideas and tools that people are requesting so we can get to them.
If you get like, so if you're saying you get it once a week, so you're talking about 52 insertions per for data. Like I'm just going simple math here, right? Out of those 52, what do you think comes to life out of all the ones that you've kind of gotten over the time?
52. All of them will come to the fruition. All of them will get made.
Oh boy!
Now if they get made efficiently, like you call me this week and tell me the idea, it'll be a couple months before I come up with it because we're just so busy with other stuff.
That's a pretty good rip around.
I will work on it. I will make that tool for you.
Attaboy. Attaboy. Look at that. He's got that just that drive. Like, no, you challenge me. Watch this. Yes.
Well, it's not the challenge. It's not the challenge. It's that we want to be your machine shop. We want you to rely on us. And so we want you to trust us. We want you to not rely on us, but we want to help you. So it's not even the challenge. It is I'm a mechanic, you're a mechanic. I know what you're going through. I want to help you.
We want to be your work aid.
Yep. That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Dad joke. Come on now, Faith. Come on. That was a good one.
And so, it is a challenge for us, to come up with that idea, but but you know what I mean? We want to help, we want to help.
Listen, that's again, beautiful thing about what we've kind of brought forth in this podcast here is, and kind of every one of on our HeliCast network here, we're doing this because we want to help. Right. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of getting the people getting the voices out to the people and understanding like there's more of us out here and then we're here to help. And that just kind of plugs right into our conferences. I think that we're scheduled for October and November there because we're plugging right back into being there, helping one another. And especially dude, with your specialized tools, are you kidding me? So for lack of my better term usage right now, you said it, I think you said it very well. It'll help you sleep at night. If you know that what you have in your hand is helping you with your job, keeping everybody safe, keeping the pilot safe, keeping the passengers safe. And I think, Faith, you and I even touched about this on one of our last podcasts there. It's when the pilot assumes that responsibility, man, you're keeping those people safe, and as well as the mechanic that's looking at helicopter take off, right? So it's a beautiful circle of life that has to be understood at that particular moment. So again, thanks for kind of going through that with all of the explanations, showing us a couple of your tools there. It's awesome. It's not often we have a visual show off.
I had to show.
No, please. That's awesome. Again, this is a show of complete, brag-abouts and shout-outs, and when you bring out two visuals like that, that's I think you're the first one to do it on the Vertical MRO podcast.
I have three more, but I haven't figured out how to bring those in.
They haven't come up in conversation
yet.
Yeah. Holding on to those.
Yep. This will be a part 3 and 4 conversation down the road here, but I'm impressed with it all because of the sheer fact of you're seeing a need, you're filling a need. For lack of everything else that we've talked about here, you're seeing a need and you're filling a need to the point where you're supplying the mechanics the right tools to do their jobs and to have an understanding of what they're going through because you're a mechanic yourself.
Yep.
So
made by mechanics for mechanics.
There you go. That should be your new bumper sticker, buddy. That's your decal right there that you need to kind of slap on everybody.
That used to be on our website, as I think it wasn't in a slogan, but it was in like our about us, by mechanics for mechanics.
Going into the future of what we're talking about for helicopter maintenance here and what we're kind of on Faith, this you can jump into because you're doing this every day with the training of it all. What are we looking at when you think about the maintenance, the training, and the technology and our industry trends going into year 2025 and beyond?
I think when it comes to ingenuity with different generations, you're gonna have different perspectives. So you're gonna have different people that have worked on the same products for a long time that have been like, that's the way we've always done it, or we just kind of had to suffer through it. But I would also be curious to know the different age ranges or demographics of where people are requesting things from, just to see, if it's the old guys that are like, nope, you got to get blood and sweat on you to get it done. Or, if it's the younger guys that are like, hey, you got something for this? I would just be curious to know, because these products, like the Bell 206s and the Ls, they're really not changing as much, right? They're tried and true. It's kind of like an old pickup truck. If you treat it right, it's just living forever. I don't know if Bell thought that they were going to be around as long as they have, because they're just kick-ass machines.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to, like the 407s and the 429s, the 505s, we're getting newer, latest and greatest, right? So FADEC, dual FADEC. They're getting way more integrated electronically. And so those systems also have their own things, right? So I would definitely be curious to see where that goes with your guys' tooling. I know for myself, even like when I started out only working on analog 206s and 407s, I really didn't need my computer that much, right? It was just occasionally. But now for, when we do radio swaps here, if I have to do an IntelliStart reset, if I have to do anything with the FADEC at all on the 407, Zing, I don't know if you've seen some of the track and balance equipment that they're making now for Bell products. I think Honeywell makes it. It's called Zing. It's literally on a tablet. It shows you what's happening with the rotor system in real time. Like, that's crazy. That's absolutely like, insane. So I know when some of the older mechanics see some of these tools or some of these things being demoed, they're like, this is nuts. Like, the 206
you think it's too overwhelming for them?
No, I think it's a 50-50 shot. Some of them are they welcome it and they're like, that's cool. I wish that had been around when I was your age. This is amazing. I'm so glad to see it going this way. But then don't get me wrong. You'll always have there was nothing wrong with it. And, it needs to stay the way it is. And so you're going to get that in any regard in life. But I love to see how much it's advancing. And I'd be curious to see on your end, Joe, what that means for you guys, in the future.
Yep.
So that is a very interesting question that you put me on. To get into that, so with that goes back to, those are the tools that you need to return the aircraft to airworthiness.
Right.
Those are required. And so those have completely properly engineered. I am growing enough now to where I have hired my first student mechanical engineer. So he's still in school for it. And I have a...
Go ahead. Shout out his name, Joe. Go ahead.
His name is Hayden Luter. He's
there you go.
Yep. And hopefully when he graduates, he does not leave me.
He's like, if you love something, set it free.
Set
but
it
please
free.
come back. Go get your A&P, but please come back. Please get your degree. Please come back.
Yeah, that's right. And then I've hired an engineer technician that does all the drawing and stuff. So
you're seeing it. You're seeing it happen.
Right. So we're getting us as a company, as we've grown, our quality has started to get better. So before, we used to make every tool by hand. Every one of them was functional, but there could be slight variations because every single one was being made by hand. We now have our own CNC machines. Now the tools are starting to get duplicated. They're exact specifications that we design. As we're growing, the better that we're getting. The more into that kind of stuff that we can get into with the engineering, because I'm going to have engineers to get into that kind of stuff.
Yep.
But at the same time, crossing that line is going to be super difficult because we're a small family business, and now we're going into multi-million-dollar businesses who have lots of funding and have their partnerships already with Bell and Leonardo and Airbus for years and years and years to be able to develop that kind of stuff. So would I love to do that? Absolutely. But when we get to that point, we're going to take baby steps. Organic growth. Right. So you don't want to rush into that. That's something that you don't want to rush in, get into tail rotor balancing, the dynamic tail rotor balancing, you're giving them bad information. Yep. When the person's relying off of a computer.
Yep.
So
I put you on the spot, and I appreciate your answer on that one. You handled it like a trooper there, buddy. You did well with it. That was a loaded question. It was a loaded question because it's open to so much interpretation, right? Both from the repair side, which luckily we have Faith kind of able to kind of talk hands-on about the stuff here at the same time, but you providing the tool for her to kind of get her job done it was a very two-pronged question, and I'm glad you both answered it the way you did. So thank you very much for both of that. So
it really sounds like your tooling to make the tooling is what's advancing. So that's more so on your end. What it sounds like is what's advancing. Cause like we were talking about a 206, a Jet Ranger, an L model, a 407, it's a helicopter, right? And Bell, not that they do, I don't want to call it like cookie cutter or copy paste, but a lot of their stuff, if you could figure out how to work on one airframe, it's very similar. You can kind of figure it out. I hear the same about Airbus. I'm not an Airbus gal. I don't know enough to speak on their behalf, but yeah, they're kind of tried and true. And so it sounds like when you kind of get it down, you know what they're looking for, how they're going to be kind of manufactured. So
different version of kind of thing.
Yeah. Different, mission for them. So
Bell has kind of tightened down on their aircraft, so like the 429 and the 505, you can't overhaul anymore, their components. The 429 has electronic, like you said, you're using a lot of the computer to do stuff.
Yep.
And so, as much as I want to get into the 429, nobody in my family is working on them. So now we rely on you guys to come up with ideas.
Yep.
Like, hey, I have this idea. I need this can you guys, and that's one of the reasons why we get it once a week is all these new airframes, and guys are like, hey, I got this problem. Can you come up with an idea for it?
Yep. And for you're still facilitating the need of those that are flying on legacy aircraft, right? So when you're talking about the 206s, whether it's the AB models or what's the L models, the 407s, that's a predominant aircraft still in the North American market, very much so. Airbus is not that far, if not just above headed, but it's kind of, to use what did my buddy Dave put it as, like, even when you're flying a 212, that's your square body Chevy, right? So that's your work truck of a helicopter. And the same could be said about the Long Rangers. They're workhorses. And they've been around for a long time, proven, tested, and reliable. And if we can kind of make lives easier for anybody who's turning wrench on those things and kind of keep them up in flight, because listen, the helicopter is not making money if it's on the ground, plain and simple, right? The contract calls it to be flying most of the times. We minimize that downtime. That helicopter is making hay while the sun is up, for all lack of a better term. Then we're doing something right, and we're providing that service to them by turning the wrench on it and giving her the ability to turn the wrench on it. So again, on behalf of myself, and I'm on the sales stuff, but it's I'm looking at both of you going, thank you very much for what you're both doing. It's plain and simple. And anybody who owns a helicopter and doesn't fly one, we have a lot to think about who our tool manufacturers are and the people turning the tools themselves.
Another thing that I'm really excited about is we were during VAI here a couple of weeks ago, a very well-known manufacturer of aftermarket helicopter parts, helicopter components, come up with a new component. I can't say what the component is, because then you can figure out who it is.
Yeah.
I went up to their booth and I spoke to them and I said, hey, have you guys made a tool for this item yet? And they were like, no. And so I said, I would love to help you guys help support your customers.
Yep.
They came over to our booth and they started to see what we had and how our quality has gone up.
Mm-hmm.
And so we are now going to have our first real partnership with a major manufacturer.
Nice.
And eventually, once all our tools get designed and get approved by them, they're actually going to put us in the ICA, which is exciting.
There you go.
That's awesome.
Yes.
There you go. Standing on that one, buddy. Well done.
Yeah.
And so that's super exciting for us. That's an example, Faith, of like how we're getting better at what we're doing.
Yep.
And so we've had issues in the past with our tools, and I welcome those complaints about the tools, because I can't fix it if I don't know what's wrong with it. And I'm no longer in the field turning wrenches, so I can't figure this out on my own. I rely on the customers, like, hey man, like this tool it's chafing on this other part as I'm trying to turn this wrench.
Yep.
It needs to be shortened up a little bit. I was like, okay, well, we'll go make that revision and change our drawings, and then I send you a new one. A perfect example. We had a customer complained about a tool one time. And I said, you know what? Let's change it. And we just sent out a new tool to every person who ever bought one before that had the older version. I called them and said, hey, we had one complaint one time. I don't want you to ever have this issue. I'm sending you a new tool. And like we preemptively, proactively sent that tool out to people. Because like I said, I don't want you to cause more maintenance. I want you to use our tools, get it done efficiently.
Joe, you come from the old school thought of like, it's if I'm, it's your metal is tested. That's when you get better, right? Like, someone's metal is tested, not at always succeeding, but when that time of failure does happen, how do you respond? That's how you get tested. So good for you. Good for you, dude.
I wonder too, if you could almost like reverse it, and if you could go to manufacturers and be like, hey, describe what you do and tell them basically, hey, this is what our company is and this is what we do. And I wonder if you could go to them and say, hey, I know that this is a new make and model, whatever manufacturer it may be. Can we go through your manufacturer school, like you or your brother or somebody, and be like, hey, can we, from the outside looking in, and take your training course and see what problem areas lie? Like, as if I'm physically doing it or practicing it, or the instructor's like, well, there's not really a good tool for that, because that happens. Like, I'm instructing all the time and I'm like, hey, book says this is what you're going to see actually happen, but you need to follow the book. And so it's a gray area. And so I do that all the time. And I have most of the tools, almost all of them, that I need. So I can't even imagine a new make and model. That's what usually hinders people from buying, like operators, from buying a new make and model. Mm-hmm. They want to make sure it's going to withstand the test of time. It's like buying the first of any car. They're like, oh, this brand new vehicle came out. You're like, I'm going to wait a couple of years. Okay. I want them to work the kinks out. Like, I'm good. I almost wonder if you could help them nip that in the butt and be like, hey, I want to go to your overhaul school, or I want to go to your line maintenance or your field maintenance school, and help you and try to, pinpoint issues you might have further down the line. I bet you could probably like infiltrate that way, and just be like, hey.
And if you need someone to represent you in those particular questions, she's right there.
Well, if I've gone through it, I'll help you. But if not, I don't know. I only know this helicopter and that helicopter.
There you go. There you go.
407 for right now. So.
The Vertical MRO Podcast is powered by Vertical Magazine, the rotorcraft industry's #1 trusted multimedia resource. Visit Vertical Mag Media on YouTube to gain access to exclusive videos featuring operators in the field and more unique content from the pages of Vertical. Subscribe today to stay informed and inspired.
So I found that a lot, like Bell has been really helpful with us, but in an unofficial way, because there are a lot of certifications that you got to have to for them to be like, okay, yeah, we're gonna have like an official partnership with you guys. One of the big things that I am trying to get set up for is to get ISO 9000 certified or 9001, either one of them.
Yep.
So that's going to be a huge step for us once we get that certification.
Yep. It opens up different doors to you.
What is that?
ISO and AS 9100 kind of certification there.
What's it cover?
It covers like certain, basically procedures.
Okay.
So to give you an example, for me, one of the biggest things would be the moment raw material enters my door, that I have paperwork that tracks that raw material to the final product and who has that product. So if the manufacturer of the raw material says, hey, that's not the proper material you're supposed to have, or there's an issue with that material, I can go back and say, hey, all you guys with a tool, it shouldn't be an issue with a tool, but all you guys with these tools, I need them back because there's an issue with the material.
Lot number.
Yep. Yeah. Lot number, batch number, so on and so forth. Yep.
Exactly. That's just a tiny, tiny, tiny piece of the ISO certification. I'd have to have manuals for everything of like company training. Everything has to be logged.
And just kind of like this is a bit of a hot topic where I'm presently employed there too, because that certification is cyclical. And depending on what part of the decade you're talking about, some people have gone without it. Some people have that, like it's the rule in the Bible by it. But it's a general standard now. More and more people, especially like foreign and not even foreign, military military training facilities are now calling for it, right? Civil training facilities are calling for it. So it's something it's one of those controlled goods, if I want to kind of classify it underneath there. It's all a part of that designation and that certification. So it's an interesting take. And again, it's rising up to become cyclical again.
And then we're in aviation. So as Faith mentioned before, everything in aviation is paperwork.
Yeah.
So us as a tool company, just to be vendors for large companies, because we're basically a vendor for every single large EMS company out there, big or small.
Yep.
And some of them require us to have a drug program to be able to be their vendor.
Yeah.
Even though we're just making tools, we don't make a single item that flies. So nothing flies. We don't have anything.
Yep.
But why make the exception for us? Just follow the rules. Everybody else has to have a drug program. So we have to be on a drug program too for my guys, because we're in aviation. That's how it is.
Yep. Hey, listen, guys, we're kind of rolling up on here on a few hours, and I know Joe's probably going, I need to get myself going home here, but I'm gonna start kind of wrapping this up here. This has been a great conversation, but I want to kind of, in conclusion to this all, Joe, you've walked us down the line here of a pretty interesting life and or a professional life that you're still leading here, and I cannot wait to see what you're going to look like another 5-10 years from now. And that's being truthfully, like brutally honest here, because this is you've kind of had my holy shit moments there a couple of times, and I just didn't want to kind of see it over the mic, but I just did. But kind of looking at back everything, when you want to kind of summarize everything, any advice you kind of want to kind of offer to anybody looking at like, like in Faith's shoes, if they're like kind of looking at, what do I need to kind of propel myself or keep myself current in my position? Any advice?
Oh, advice?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Even advice on you. Listen, you started off as a family. You were born into aviation. You got hooked young, right? So then you kind of took it. You tried to kind of get away from it, but it's like the mafia. It brings you right back in, baby. This is
It's
yeah.
Advice. Now you really put me on the spot.
Well, it's might as well do it.
Advice for for future mechanics. For like if I was talking to Gabby right now, learn as much as you can. Ask questions. You're always going to be learning. Just because you got your A&P doesn't mean now you know everything. Like you said, Faith, you've heard it from other people. I've heard it. It's a license to learn. You're always going to learn. If you stop learning, you've kind of closed yourself off to aviation. Even in my last few years when I was working for Helicopter Express, I was still learning things. And so, just always try to learn and be open to learning new things.
Yep.
And then on a side note, safety starts with S, but begins with you. So.
Oh, such an after school moment too. Look at that. Yes.
That's awesome.
What a perfect way to cap it. I love it. Joe, Faith, you got any last parting words there as well?
No, I think it's been super interesting. Also, we could do a whole nother one, but I want to hear about how things are made. You got to do like your Instagram. You need to do like how a tool is made.
Yeah.
Because I could sit and watch. I'm an old lady. I could watch how it's made for forever. And so I would love to just like see, because I know nothing about like tool and die. So I think that's just such a cool thing. And what you do is so niche. So I really think listeners are going to enjoy this one. I can't tell you how many people that have said that they know you somehow. I get guys in class all the time. They're like, I know Jay, or I know Joe, or, oh, have you heard of this place called Helicopter Work-Aids? And I'm like, this is crazy. So full circle, finally getting to have you on.
Love
and you
it.
get to
that's always super exciting to hear, because it's a family business, and so it's really nice to hear. We love that.
I know I'll probably be dropping your reference there with my company here, as we're an engine shop. So this is me. I'm going to be talking to, we got a field tech rep who's got like 30 plus years of experience, and he goes out and kind of supports, and probably he's probably been at your facility there, Faith, to kind of help you wrench a turbine or two. But I'm definitely going back with this and saying, hey, have you heard about these guys? I'm like, yeah, I've heard about them. Now I'm like, well, listen to this podcast. Watch, you get to actually meet the LaCaze guy, LaCaze.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, again, wrapping this all up here, Joe, you've hit us with a lot. We've taken on a lot. I've asked you a couple of questions that put you on the spot, and I apologize, but at the same time, I appreciate you. I appreciate you answering. I appreciate you answering, and thank you.
I absolutely had a blast. Thank you so much for inviting me and having me here with you guys. I had a really good time.
You're always welcome back. And this is if we go into another realm of how tools are made, Faith will kind of be she's going to be like, oh, maybe here, right. She'll be jumping in on that one. Yeah. But again, thank you for doing what you do. Thanks for being the positive person that you are, because like I said, this is my first time meeting you, and it's been an absolute pleasure of mine to kind of sit here and talk to you about it for the last couple of hours here now. So I've really taken this in, and Faith, thanks for introducing him to me. I really do. I do appreciate it both. I'm taking a lot away from this, and it's at all positive levels. So I appreciate you both. I always end my shows with this question, and Faith, you know the question: does pineapple belong on a pizza?
Yes.
Oh, what? No.
I couldn't, honestly, Val, I couldn't remember your answer to this. So I was like,
Oh, no. Like, listen, pineapples are great for breakfast, and pineapples are great for Mai Tais and drinking and shit like that. But like, come on a pizza? No.
I wasn't a fan until about 3 weeks ago in a local place. I had a slice of pizza with pineapple on it. I was like, actually, this is pretty good.
Were you sober?
People in St. Louis love it too. They have Emo's Pizza. It's barbecue. It's barbecue, and it's got pineapple. They call it sweet heat. Everybody here loves sweet heat. I'm like,
Your last question should have been Cubs or Cardinals, and obviously it's Cubs.
Cut it.
Throw the gauntlet down. As I'm dying off microphone here, oh my God, throw the gauntlet down. Absolute pleasure, guys. I love it. We ended it right. So, to our listeners, thanks for listening. Subscribe, hit that subscribe button. If you have any suggestions, hit us up on our social media. Anything that we can kind of get more from you guys there is always appreciated. Faith, thank you for co-hosting. You're awesome at it. Joe, keep doing what you're doing. I'd love to meet you one day, and I'll jump up on a stool to kind of shake your hand. You're 6'6", I'm not. So to that, I say good night, everybody, and thanks for listening to Vertical MRO. Stand by for a message after a word from our sponsors.
Thank you to our sponsor, Precision Aviation Group. Mission-critical operators and fleet managers rely on Precision Aviation Group as a worldwide leading rotor and fixed-wing MRO provider. PAG provides tip-to-tail solutions in 4 MRO segments: avionics, components, engines, and manufacturing DER services. A single point of contact gives you access to over 150 million in inventory globally, 24/7. Just call 800-537-2778. Precision Aviation Group. Others sell parts. We sell support.
Thanks to our sponsor, Airbus. Airbus provides the most efficient helicopter solutions to its customers who serve, protect, and save lives and safely carry passengers in demanding environments. Its civil and military helicopters are flying all over the world, making missions possible. Visit airbus.com for more information.
The Vertical MRO Podcast is powered by Vertical Magazine, the rotorcraft industry's #1 trusted multimedia resource. Visit Vertical Mag Media on YouTube to gain access to exclusive videos featuring operators in the field and more unique content from the pages of Vertical. Subscribe today to stay informed and inspired.
Yeah, everybody, there it wraps up another episode of Vertical MRO Podcast. A big thank you to our guest, Joseph LaCaze of Helicopter Work Aids, for sharing his journey from a childhood surrounded by aviation to building a legacy of innovation and mentorship in the helicopter maintenance. His stories remind us that the heart of our industry is not in the tools we use, but in the people who shape them through passion, perseverance, and commitment to community. Whether you're a seasoned maintainer or just starting out, we hope you found the inspiration in Joe's insights on embracing challenges, continuous learning, and the value of strong partnerships. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe to the Vertical MRO Podcast on your favorite platform, whether it's Apple, Spotify, or anything else that you would use. And don't forget to check out the upcoming industry events in Kelowna, BC on October 7th through 10th, and in Dallas, Fort Worth area there from November 10th to 12th. They're going to be pretty kick-ass. On behalf of your hosts, myself, Val Medved, and Faith Ortega, thanks for tuning in. Stay safe, keep learning, and remember, every legacy in aviation starts with a single spark of curiosity. We'll see you next time on the Vertical MRO Pod. Keep the rotors turning and the stories flying. I'm Val, over and out.